online gaming platforms, Kartik, Krishna, have a different woe this time around, and moving away from what has happened by the way of new GST regime, shifting back to what was happening during the earlier GST regime, where both game of skills and game of chance were taxed differently at 18% and 28%, game of chance at 28%, game of skills at 18%. We are given to understand that
not
tax
according
authority…
to the government. The government always said, hey,
No,
it's 28% for all. We are just clarifying, we're not changing the tax
But
cards.
apparently, all of that now means that tax authorities is alleging that there is a tax outgo of approximately 45,000 crores that these companies have to pay back. This is going to be a big dampener for many of these companies.
So, Shweta, a little bit of context here. So, what gaming companies were doing, apparently of their own, free will, if I may, that they continued to pay 18% GST instead of 28% GST, wherein I think the government in its 50th GST Council meeting clarified that this is just a clarification of GST rules. It is not a new rule being introduced or a new tax rate being introduced. So, companies up until then continued to pay 18% on GGR instead of face value. Government says face value, yeah, okay, we'll let you have the benefit of doubt. Face value kicks in only on the 1st of November. Until then, 1st of November, 1st of October, 1st of October. So, face value rule kicks in on 1st of October, but 28% has always been the case. So, if it is 28%, you will pay me 28% retrospectively. Face value comes into effect on 1st of October.
So, differential taxation, which was one of the concerns from what I am reading at the moment, was that many of these companies who were in fact in the game of chance, not in the game of skills, for example, horse racing, casinos, were paying 18% on GGR.
That's right, and which is what the government in its 50th GST Council meeting said that, hey, the rate has always been 28%. We are just clarifying it.
So, this is retrospective taxation then?
So, is it retrospective, or did the companies not really look at the rule books very clearly?
But then how did GST authority continue to take that money since 2017 when GST was rolled out?
So, actually this has been into multiple rounds of litigation already. In fact, Gamecraft, a Bangalore-based gaming company, took this matter to the Karnataka High Court, and Karnataka High Court there had ruled in favor of the gaming company, Gamecraft, saying that yes, 18% on GGR is the rule that needs to be applied. But the government is now saying that nothing doing. The rule has always been 28%, and this is not retrospective tax because we are not changing it from a back date. We are just making sure that your compliance is correct, backdated. So, it is not an implementation of a backdated rule. It is clarification of the rule that according to the government has always been in place, and this is not backdated collection of taxes because of our rule change, but this is backdated tax collection because you faltered on paying the correct interest rate.
So, you gamed the system basically.
I don't know if it is gaming the system or I think what everybody should agree to is that the fine print also needs to be written in very simple, clear language. It cannot be difficult or almost impossible for not just the gaming companies, but even the courts to decipher what the government means by a certain industry, classification of an industry, demarcation of a broader industry into sub-verticals of that industry, and applicable tax rates. So, I think the language and the explanation of the rules needs to be absolutely clear, so that when a gaming company or when an investor is taking a punt on an industry or on a sector, it is done with both eyes wide open. And the vision being 6 by 6, it cannot be, hey, this is my understanding of the rule. This is my hope for the rule to stay in existence for X number of years. These policies need to be very clearly articulated and need to be sacrosanct. You cannot have rate changes or clarifications coming years after implementation.
So, just to clarify once again, the differential taxation never existed in our understanding. It was always 28%.
In the understanding of the GST Council.
That there was never any differential taxation.
There wasn't any differential taxation.
Then, and so therefore, 18% GST was not the correct GST that many of these gaming companies were paying. How were they allowed to not pay up 28% and pay 18%?
Which is
and
why
that
the litigation,
to be
which is why the litigation, because the tax authorities had gone after Gamecraft, being one example. I'm sure they must have gone after other companies as well. They had gone after Gamecraft stating very well that the tax rate is 28%. And then when the matter reached the Karnataka High Court, it was ruled in favor of Gamecraft, not in favor of the government.
Which was the understanding of the court.
Of the court, yes.
That 18% GST levy on game of skills stands.
Absolutely.
Right. So therefore, I think all this boils down to perhaps that there was no clarity on whether there was any differential taxation, but the 50th GST Council has now clarified. There never was.
Clarified.
So it was neither a game of skill nor a game of chance, it was a game of
game of facts. And so let's
as
quickly,
far as taxing is concerned.
Right, let's quickly go through the new rules that will be made applicable 1st of October. 28% GST levy on face value. Remember, not on GGR, on face value for both game of skills and game of chance. As I said, the new GST rate will be applicable from 1st of October, which is just around the corner. There will be no differential taxation between the two games. It comes to an end, and therefore these companies, many of these companies who's not paid up 28% GST levy, only paid up 18%, will have to now pay up a massive 45,000 crore rupees.
On GGR, 28% on GGR, and come 1st of October, boom, here comes the double whammy, pay 28% on face value.
All right. so the differential taxation or the understanding of it has now been clarified by the GST authority.